there?
Yes, sir. We've been told that we'll get 2 cases and X-rays, implants, and instruments.
So this is like a mid exam or is a final exam? What is it?
No, sir. This is the 8th semester exam.
8th semester, like, but what midterm exam, like?
So this is the first semester of the final year.
Okay.
2 semesters and then the final prof will be there. This is the first semester.
Try request all of you to participate. Okay, if you participate, then you will learn. If you not just keep quiet, then it's difficult to learn. But in orthopedics, is everything is so technical. So if you have doubt, then you guys can just ask. Okay, just unmute your mics and you can ask anything you want. I will try my best to answer. Okay.
So we can start, sir.
Excuse me, sir. You're not audible, sir.
Okay. Am I early audible now?
Yes, sir.
So this is an X-ray of chronic osteomyelitis. Okay. So in this one, patient can be having a very long history of a discharging sinus from the thigh or wherever it is. And then in X-ray, they will be asking you, they will show you an X-ray and they will ask you what is this X-ray looks like. So you have to identify 2 things. First is the sequestrum, which is the dead bone. And another thing is the involucrum. That is a new bone formation around the sequestrum. So make note that in chronic osteomyelitis, you have to look for 2 things. One is the sequestrum and another thing is involucrum. So at your stage, you need to know only this much only. So what is this one? Can anyone tell like what is this X-ray showing? Like is it a young boy's X-ray or is a adult X-ray? Can anyone make a guess? What is it?
Sir, young person.
Yeah. So this is a patient who is complaining of hip pain and difficulty of walking. So this is an X-ray of a Perthes disease. Okay. So in Perthes disease, you have to know because that's a very common and they will show you this X-ray. So in Perthes disease, you have to know the staging. So that's the Waldenstrom stages are there. There are 4 stages. So you have to know the 4 stages. initial stage, fragmentation, reossification, and healed phase. So you have to read for that. Okay. Then what is a sagging rope sign? And so you have to read about that thing. So this is a case of a Perthes disease. So if the patient will come around the age of 11 to 11 years, 8 to 11 years, something like that. And it's a male predominant. So read about the Perthes disease. Okay, so what is this fracture? Anyone?
Scaphoid fracture.
So scaphoid fracture.
Yes. So it's a scaphoid fracture. So what is the complication of scaphoid fracture?
Vascular necrosis.
Yes. So they will ask you this thing, and it occurs mainly in the waist part, no? So you have to remember that part, that it happens in. So these 2-3 things. So scaphoid fracture is common. Patient will fall on outstretched hand. So 2 things you have to remember in outstretched hand. What comes in your mind when the patient will say, or in exam when you are giving MCQ also, no, in PG. So there will be certain things you have to keep in mind. Like if patient gives a fall on outstretched hand, okay. So if he's a kid, then it can be a supracondylar fracture. But if he's an adult, then you look for maybe a scaphoid fracture. So you know that what to suspect. Like you will not mark it wrong. So either there can be a scaphoid fracture or there can be a Colles fracture. So you have to remember. Okay, so scaphoid is very important. So scaphoid, 2-3 things you have to keep in mind. The next is, this one is, can anyone say what is this? This is very obvious. It's a fracture dislocation. Yeah, okay, slip disc, but there's a fracture. No, you can see a fracture is there. So how you will know if in a bone, suppose this is a bone, okay. So how you know if there is a fracture? So you look the outline, okay. You look the cortex and you see if any breach is there in the cortex. So if this one, if you see there is a fracture in this part and there is a fracture in this part, okay. So there's a fracture dislocation, but you can be confused with a listhesis. So listhesis of 2 types. It can be a retrolisthesis or a anterolisthesis or retrolisthesis. So you have to look that one. Okay. And they can ask you, so what level you have to see. So if the sacrum is this one, if sacrum finishes at this one, so this one is L5S1. So you have to count from down. Okay. Or you can count from up. If you can count from T12 to down, or you can count from down to up. Okay. So this is the L5S1 fracture dislocation. So you guys can confuse with listhesis also. Okay, so this one, what is it? It is a very common. Only 2 things you should know in orthopedics. If they give you this X-ray, no, you don't have to read history also. You can just mark it. Anyone?
So GCT.
Yes. So what is the characteristic of GCT? Like how you will know? Which appearance you will see?
Sir, soap bubble appearance.
Soap bubble appearance. And another thing, what is a differential, closest differential of GCT?
Sir, simple bone cyst.
Yeah, simple bone cyst by the ABC, no? Aneurysmal bone cyst. So how you will differentiate? How you will know that is GCT only? Soap bubble appearance you can confuse with the aneurysmal bone cyst also. Always remember that GCT always goes near the joint line. Okay. And remember, distal femur is most common. So distal femur or a radius. If they show this X-ray, then you are sure that this is GCT only. You will not make it wrong. So don't mark wrong. Okay. GCT is very common and it comes in exam. So focus, you guys should focus on your PG. Okay. So what question comes, you ask your seniors also, and anyone, like when you are having internship also, you guys ask things. What are the common things? In exam, always common thing comes. Okay. So don't run for the outlier things now. Which look fancy, but it never comes in exam. So this is GCT. Okay. So soap bubble appearance, you have to remember. Okay. What is this one? We have these X-rays in our department. Okay. So these things will come. See, two or three things you can tell.
Exhaustosis.
Okay. But okay, I will tell you. This is the most common benign tumor What is it? Osteoid osteoma. Okay. So the most common thing patient on X-ray you will see is the osteoid osteoma goes away from the joint. Okay. So that is the thing. One more thing is this is the most common benign tumor. Another thing is that patient will have night pain, and which you will give salicylates, so like aspirin. When patient you will give aspirin, patient's symptom will relieve. It is a diaphyseal. And another thing is that nothing use the treatment of choice is radiofrequency ablation. Okay, so this thing is common, so you have to know. Okay, so what fracture is this? This is a shaft of radius fracture, no? So in this one, they can ask you one more thing is that what is associated with this fracture? If a patient is having a shaft of humerus fracture with a neuropraxia of radial nerve, like what you will call that type of fracture? There's a specific name for it.
Holstein-Lewis.
Yes, Holstein-Lewis fracture. Okay, so that thing they can ask you in this one, but that fracture will be a little bit down. But they can ask you in Viva, what fracture is that one? Okay, so that thing you have to know. Okay, what fracture is this?
Clavicle.
Yes, so clavicle fracture, how you will manage clavicle fracture?
Figure of 8 bandage.
Yes, so figure of 8 bandage, but we have that brace available already. So you can give figure of 8 brace or figure of 8 bandage. So most of the how to say, clavicle fracture will unite with conservative management only. But if a patient is having a cosmetic problem, that if patient is saying that like if it's a female patient or a young patient, no, like if a patient comes from a village and all, no, they are very conservative, like they want to have a, like cosmetically it should look better, or some people want it. So you can go for auriplatin, means you can open and fix it also. But if it's not symptomatic, or if it's not so much displaced, you can manage it conservatively. This is a displaced fracture. So you can go for either conservative treatment, but you can also go for a open reduction. You open it and then fix it with plate and screws. Okay, so what fracture is this? Fast.
Colles fracture.
Yes, Colles fracture. So this is the most common. Patient will complain of fall on outstretched hand. And what is the displacement in Colles fracture?
Dorsal.
Yes, the dinner fork deformity will be there in Colles fracture. No, so this one you have to remember. And what else is there? What other fracture? What is a reverse Colles? What is the name of reverse Colles?
Smith fracture.
Yes, Smith fracture. So you have to know these two. Okay. So in the Colles fracture there is a dinner fork deformity, and in that one, Smith is which deformity?
Garden spade.
Yes, garden spade. So that two things you would have to know. And how do you manage Colles fracture is Colles cast. But if the patient comes in emergency, always remember you never give cast in emergency setting. You always immobilize with the slab, and then later on you will go for a cast application after 1 week. Because if you apply in acute setting, it can, once a swelling subside, you will lose the reduction. So you have to do again casting. So that is a very troublesome. And this is a painful thing. No, you will give traction and pulling things and manipulating. So it is very painful. So first you give a slab. Once the swelling subsides, then you can go for a close reduction and cast application. So you have to know what is the displacement in Colles and how you will reposition it. Okay. So make note of it and read about it. What is in both, in Smith fracture and Colles fracture. So I'll just tell you that in Colles fracture is supination lateral displacement, then there will be impaction and dorsal displacement. And the position of the cast is pronation, palmar angulation, and ulnar deviation. So you read this one and remember it. Okay. Okay, so what is this one? What fracture is it?
Neck of femur.
No. Neck is intertrochanteric. This is intertrochanteric, IT fracture, no? So how do you differentiate clinically from IT fracture from a neck of femur? See, this is head, this is neck. Okay, this is your GT, this is your LT. So this is in between two GT and LT, means trochanter is intertrochanteric. So how you will differentiate clinically where there will be a more external rotation of leg?
Intertrochanteric fracture.
Yes, so because this is outside capsule and that one is inside capsule. So the management also differs. In IT fracture, you simple put a proximal femoral nail. And in a neck of femur, you have to go for a replacement. Why? What happens in a neck of femur?
AVN.
Yeah, no, yes, AVN, but it will not unite because the synovial fluid is there, no? So the fluid will that it will not help. It will not let the fracture to unite. So and the head will also get AVN. You said correctly. So we can in both of that. So only two things they will ask you: the clinical part and then the management part. So in this one, proximal femoral nail, and in a neck of femur, you go for a bipolar prosthesis. Means hemiarthroplasty. Okay. Okay, so this X-ray part is finished. Just hold. Okay, so then we will discuss some instruments. Okay, so okay, what fracture is it? It's a shaft, both bone fracture, no? Shaft also and shaft tibia also and fibula also. Okay, so how do you manage this one? So in this one, you have to go for an interlocking nailing. So you can manage with cast if it is not, how to say, if is not so much displaced, you can manage with cast. Before the invention of these nails and all, they were managing with cast only. But now we have we have nails and systems are there, the interlocking system. So we can go for cast. We can go for internal fixation. So the advantage of internal fixation is that we can mobilize the patient fast, and also the joints above and below of the fracture, the joints are free, so there is no stiffness, and post-operative recovery is fast. So this is an interlocking nail. So how does it look? So this is the interlocking nail. Okay. So you see, now to compare to the femur nail, the interlocking nail, the tibia nail is a little bit thinner. Okay, and there is a band. This is a Herzog's band. That is a 14 degrees. So you remember in this one, in tibia, how you will differentiate from the femur one is that in femur there is no band like this acute band. Okay. So you have to see you have to keep a visual in your head that this is the band is there, then this can be a tibia nail only. They will not ask you so much difficult things. They just want you to identify what is tibia nail and what is femoral nail. Okay. So this is a shaft of femur fracture, and in shaft of femur you will go for in shaft of femur also we can fix with the nail. So this is a femoral nail. So in femoral nail you see there is no bend, and also the nail is a little bit wider. Okay, so you remember like that, and there is no bend, and from femoral nail will be a little bit thicker than the tibia nail. And if you are having hard time now, because if you have not seen before tibia nail and femoral nail, just look this proximal part. This one will be very thick compared to tibia. You will know only because from size you can, because there are different sizes available. So maybe you might get confused if they give you a small nail. But from the head part, you will know that this is a femoral nail or if it's a tibia nail. Okay. So same thing. This is a this is a young patient. Okay. So if in a young patient, if it comes with the shaft of femur fracture, no, you don't give nailing because the epiphyses are still open. The physes are still open. If you fix with the nailing, then there will be a growth retardation of that limb. So we manage with the tense nailing. So you guys read about tense nailing. What are the tense nailing and what are the principles of tense nailing? They can ask you. Okay. So this is a managed with tense nailing. So it looks like this. It comes in different color and this is made up of titanium. So it's easy to bend. Before they were using steel, but titanium now everywhere titanium is used because titanium may have a very good flexibility. So it is helpful. Okay. Okay. So this is a distal femur fracture and in this one we fix with the distal femur plate. So this is a distal femur plate. So the distal femur plate will be a little bit thicker. Okay. So you just keep in mind the picture like the distal femur plate look like this. Okay. So always all the intra-articular fracture, you have to go for a open reduction and internal fixation. Because to maintain the articular margin of any fracture, okay, you need to have a absolute fixation. Like this is an intra-articular fracture, no? So you need an absolute fixation. So for that, we have to go for open reduction and internal fixation. While if it's a diaphyseal fracture, you can manage it conservatively. But if you manage it conservatively, there will be a rotational issue and the post-op, like the duration is long. So the more complicated is more complication. But if you go for internal fixation, there are disadvantages of it also are there, like post-operative infection chances are there. And then again, if you put a nail or plate inside, you have to remove it also after some years. So, but this is the latest advancement. So now we are all the fractures we try to fix with unless if it's contraindicated or if we can manage with close reduction, we always go for a open reduction and fixation. So this is a distal femur plate. No, this is a proximal tibia plate for proximal tibia fracture. So proximal tibia also mostly are intra-articular. So you need an absolute fixation. So for that, you give a plate for that. So this is a lateral plate. So you just see, you have to remember the the shape of it. So this is a lateral plate and this is a posterior plate. Okay. These are the anatomically made plate. So when you put this plate in the lateral part of the tibia, no, it will fix it. It will stay there properly. So this is a lateral plate and this is a posterior plate. So this is a distal femur plate. See, it looks different. See, this is a lateral plate of tibia, proximal tibia. This is a posterior plate. Okay, so these are the K-wires. Okay, so K-wires are of different sizes of K-wires are available. So this one is, in this one, they have seen the small threads are there, but in the K-wires we use, there are no threads. That are steel one, okay, and they are thin. They are not that big. So once you will see it, you will remember it. The K-wires, it just look like a straight wire, but they have written MMs on it. So according to the thickness, they have MM mentioned, like the sizes are mentioned on the wire. So where can we use? In supracondylar fracture in kids, we use K-wires to fix it. Also in a young patient with this distal radius fracture, also we use K-wires to fix it. So then K-wires are always helpful in orthopedics because initial fixation are done by K-wires only. Once we open the fracture, we hold with instrument, and before putting plates, we will put initially the K-wire to maintain the reduction. Okay, so K-wires are always a helpful tool for orthopedicians. Okay, so this is a Philos plate. It's a proximal humerus interlocking system. So this one we use it for a proximal humerus fractures. Okay, so they will just give you the plates. They will show you the plates and they will tell you where is this plate fixed. They will not ask you the technical stuff like what are the screws, where to put and on, but they will just ask you like what is this instrument, like what is this plate. Okay, so remember this is a Philos plate, and in Philos plate there will be so many holes, so you will know it only. This is easy to identify. Okay, so this is again another nail. This is a proximal humeral nail. Okay, so this will be a very small one, so it's easy to identify this one. So also in proximal humerus fracture, if it's not so much comminuted, you can go with a nail. Okay, but if it's too comminuted, you have to go with the plate, Philos plate. So make a note of Philos plate, or read about it a little bit. What is the full form of Philos plate, and how it is, where is it used, and how it looks. Okay. Okay. So this is a. If anyone tell me what is this process is? This is important. They will ask you. If you can tell me like what is this, like a while ago we saw that neck of femur fracture, no? That we can use. There we will use it. But what is the name of this processes?
Austin Moore.
Yes. So what is the difference between Austin Moore and another one is Thompson? Okay, so I'll show you. This is Austin Moore. This is Thompson. What is the difference?
Fenestrations.
No. Just tell me like if like by looking, because you guys don't have to know. You just have to know by looking that no, this is Austin Moore and this is how to say, this is Thompson. See, always remember in Austin Moore, no, there are two holes. So remember in Moore there is MOOR, no. So that two O are two holes. So you will never forget. In Austin Moore there are two holes in this part. See, there are two holes in Austin Moore, and in spelling also MOOR Austin Moore. Okay. So in Austin Moore there are two holes. But just see, this one is also unipolar. Okay, there is only one pole here. This is also one pole. So these two. Okay, that one was Austin Moore. This is Thompson, and this is a modular. So this is a bipolar. When you will come to orthopedics, you will be writing discharge summaries now, and you will see bipolar hemiarthroplasty. Patient is posted for bipolar hemiarthroplasty, and this is the latest advancement. So in this one there are three things. This is a stem, then this is a modular cup, and then there is one more cup. So there is a movement in between three of it. So this is more modular. So the wear and tear is less in this one. Okay. So remember three things. So for you guys, important is Austin Moore and Thompson only. Okay. Okay. This is the AO clamp. So when you will go to ward also, I think you guys have seen the external fixator. So to connect these pins, no, we have to use the clamp. So this is that clamp. That is AO clamp. This AO. This AO clamp. Okay, the name of this thing is AO clamp. So they will just show you this thing and they will ask you what is it. So the name is AO clamp. Okay, this is a rush nail. Okay, so rush nail is thicker than that K-wire. Okay, and there is a band at the hook at the end of it, and it's quite thick than K-wires. Okay, when we use it, this one for a shaft top like both bone forearm also you can use, and a thin bone like fibula fracture also you can use. So by looking you will know. So in this one there will be a band at the end. Okay, so this is rush nail. Okay, this is 1/3 tubular plate. 1/3 tubular plate. That one is used for fibula. So when there is a lateral condyle fracture, you use 1/3 tubular plate. So this is how it looks. Is a half tube, like a half tube type of shape is there. So it is easy to identify. It's a very small. Okay. You guys just go through it 2-3 times, no? You will not make mistake. So just remember, it's a small plate, 1/3 tubular plate. Okay, so this is a Kramer wire. Okay, so this one we use it for immobilization in emergency, no? If there is if you want to immobilize it and a slab or cast is not available, these are available in our emergency department. So to immobilize it, you can use it. This is the Kramer wire splint. Okay, so remember. Okay, this is SS wire, stainless steel wire. We use it when there is a, suppose we fix this one, this fracture, this one is THR is done, okay, total hip replacement. But there are some fragments. So this part was unstable, so you just put a wire and you tie it. So for tying that part, this is a SS wire we use it. Okay, so when you will see instruments, no, it will be always there in this bobbin, the small bobbin, it will be there. So just see, it is easy to identify. Okay, so now screws. Okay, so now we have 3 types of screw you have to remember. This is a cortical screw. Okay, in cortical screw there are no serration on the head. Okay, and in locking screw there will be serrations on the head. So remember, this one is easy to identify. And these are self-tapping, means you don't have to use a tap. So that is too technical for you guys, but just remember this thing. This is a cortical screw. Okay, in cortical screw there are no serrations on the, like no serrations at the head part, and in locking there will be serrations at the head part. And the third screw is cortical cancellous screw. So in this one you have serrations at the distal part only. This part is plain. And if is a, okay, so this is a cortical cancellous screw. So while putting this one, you put a guide wire inside it, a small K wire or guide wire. Then on top of it, you use this one. Okay, so maybe they will just ask you to identify only. So I think it is easy. This is cortical without serration. This one with serration is locking, and this one is cortical cancellous. Okay, so now the plates. Okay, so can anyone tell me what is the difference between LCP and DCP? Or full form? What is DCP full form? Anyone?
Dynamic compression plate.
Yes, so this is dynamic compression plate. This is a locking compression plate. So in dynamic compression plate, you put a cortical screw, okay, and it will slide. Okay, there are no serrations in the plate, because if you have a serrations in the head, okay, so you need these serrations in the plate also. So in DCP there will be no serrations. In LCP there will be serrations. Okay, now it comes on what is the difference in DCP, limited contact DCP and in LCP. See, if it's just a DCP, no, there is no notches at the end of it. Like in the below surface, the bone contact surface, there are no serrations. Serration, I mean there are no notching. But if you see in limited contact, no, there will be notching. Okay, and in LCP also there are notching. Okay, so this one is to decrease the contact area of the plate to the bone, because if the plate is applied to the bone, no, that part of the periosteum it dies, and there is a decrease in blood supply to the bone. So for that reason, we now use it limited contact plates. So this is an older generation plate, dynamic compression. It was only just DCP. There is no hole for locking. Okay, but now we use it as a LCPs. There are serrations and there is a limited contact. Okay, so this is a combi hole plate. So when they will ask you, when in single plate there is a hole for locking also, and there is a hole for cortical screw also, then that's a combi hole plate. The another plate is that variable angle locking plate. So what is the difference in variable angle is that the head screw, you can change the angle of it. So that is the only thing you have to know. In variable angle, you can put there is a 5 degree or 10 degree, 5 to 7 degree, there can be a angulation you can give. Because when you give a cortical screw, okay, listen carefully, that in locking screws you can give in a variable direction. Okay, but when you are giving a locking screw, you have to go perpendicular to the plate. So while applying this screw, you have to go perpendicular to the plate. If you don't go, this screw will not lock and it will give stress on the screw and screw will break. So for that you use drill sleeves to drill it, and while putting the screw also it should go up perpendicular. But suppose in some fractures you need to change the angle also. So at that part you use a variable angle looking plate. So there are different companies which provide variable angle also, and some companies they provide, most of the companies provide LCP, but for variable angle some companies only provide, and these plates are expensive. Okay, so this part is also finished. So now last is the instrument. So sir have give you list, no, instruments?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but I'll show you some, like I have a list. I'll share with you this PDF so you guys can go through it. Okay.
Yes.
I will show you what sir have told. Okay, I'll just go through this one. Okay, and all the sir have told you, no, everything is in this one. So which are the orthopedic related, I'll discuss. Okay. Okay, so this one is a chisel. Okay, so this one you use to cut the bone, and while taking a bone graft, no, you use it with the mallet. So this is a chisel. So you remember this is a chisel. Okay, it has a sharp end at this part, so you can use it to take out the bone, cut the bone. While
Excuse
you
me.
sir,
So we cannot, it's still the previous presentation.
okay. Okay, now?
Yes, so now we can see.
Yeah, okay. So this is a chisel, okay? So this one you use to cut bones and while taking bone graft also. And it has a sharp end at this point. Okay, so this one is not. Okay, this is a curate. Okay, so it has a scoop at this end, and we use it for curating. Like when there is a infective bone and all, no? So you need to curate it. And while clearing the fracture also, fracture side, you need to freshen it before you put plates and reduce it, no? So that part you can use it. So this is a curate. I'll share with you this PDF so you can go through the theory part of this, okay? In this PDF, everything is there for surgical instruments, gynae instruments, and orthopedic instruments are also there. This is the same bone curate. The part which is important, I'll stop and I'll show you, okay? Okay, so this one is a bone cutter. So you use it, this one, for cutting the bones also, cartilages also, and wires also. When we are using wire, no? K wires, we can cut with this one, bone cutter. Okay, this is not ours. Okay, so this is a periosteal elevator. So while fixing the plate, no, we have to apply the plate to the bone. So to apply that plate, you have to remove the periosteum from the bone. So for removing periosteum, you use this instrument, and this instrument's name is periosteum. You don't have to explain them the detail, but you have to just tell them that this is the periosteum. Okay, this is a rib hook. So I will show you. You just see this one, and when we will see bone hook, no, bone hook is more pointed, angulated. This is not, and it is not that wide. This one is a little bit wide. This is a rib retractor, a rib elevator. Okay, this one, what is this? This one you guys will know. This is a needle holder, no? So remember, but you have to remember what is the name also. So this is a this one there is no name. So this is just a needle holder. Yes, you put a needle there, no? So okay, so important part I'll tell you here is that you have to know all the sizes of blade. How 11 number look like. So remember 11 number, you guys can note it, 11 number, 15 number, 24, 23. These 4 blades are important. Again, I'll repeat, 11 is a stab knife, so it is a very sharp, pointed sharp end. So 11, 15, 23, 24. You remember those things. The blade, they will ask you what number is it. Okay, what is it? Tell me the name is that, okay? Don't tell me hammer.
Mallet.
Yes, so this is a mallet, okay? So just tell them mallet, don't tell in exam is a hammer, okay? Or they will cut your marks. So this is a mallet. Okay, what is this one? This is a osteotome, okay? So while doing osteotomies, the proximal tibial osteotomy or distal femur osteotomy, you use this one. So this is a osteotome. It has a sizes on it, so you know how much osteotomy you have made. Okay, so this one is a rasp. We make it to clear the medullary canal, no, while putting a prosthesis like a proximal femoral prosthesis for doing bipolar. You need to clean the canal, so you use this rasp to clean the canal. Okay, this is not ours. Okay, this one. This one is a rongier. So remember this one. This one we use it for cutting tissues and all. Okay. Okay, this one is Carrison. Okay, you remember this Carrison is used in spine surgeries to cut the areas around the vertebra, no? The lamina and all, you use Carrison. So remember this one is important, orthopedic point of view. Okay, this is a handle of a giggly saw. So I'll show you first the giggly saw. This is a giggly saw. You use it for cutting bones. They also use it in neurosurgery for cutting skull also, this one. So this is a handle for it. Handle of giggly saw. Okay, this is easy. Bandage scissor, okay. Bandage scissor have this type of thing. The bandage scissor is easy. This one, but I'll show you the another one. Okay, this one. This one is for a Mayo scissor also. This one you remember, okay. This one for cutting sutures and all. Okay, this is a dissecting scissor. So remember, dissecting scissors are, it is a thinner this part and a little bit curve is there. So this is a dissecting scissor. So remember dissecting scissor. They also call a maximum. So don't tell them dissecting scissor, it's a maximum. For your guys, they will ask you the names. What are the names of this instrument? Okay, so this is a thumb forceps. Okay, and also it is called as a Adson. So remember this one, Adson is easy to identify. These all things they use it, this Adson Brown and all, they use it in general surgery. So, okay, this is Babcock, so this one also is easy. You guys know it, huh? Just tell me if you want to tell me to stop at that point, I'll stop. Or the ones are important, I'll show you. So this is bayonet, important. Okay. Okay, this is a bipolar. So for doing cautery, there are unipolar cauteries and there are bipolar cauteries. So this is a bipolar cauteries. Both ends are here. In unipolar, only one end is here, another end is attached to the patient's body. Okay, this DBK is there, but we don't use it, these instruments oftenly. This sponge holding, this one is there in the ward also. So I think you guys know this about, no? Sponge holding. So don't read so much fancy things. No, they will ask you this small things only. Like this one, tissue forceps. This one also you guys will know only. This is a toothed, okay? So there are tooths in it. So this is a toothed forceps. Okay, this is your Alice. So Alice, you should know. It has a both side. There is a claw-like thing, no? So Alice is easy. Okay, this is a bulldog. This bulldog clamp, they use it in when doing this renal transplant and all. No? But the name is interesting, so you can remember it. This is artery. These clamps, they use it for hemostasis in mostly in the surgical part, no? In general surgery, I mean. Okay, so this one also hemostat clamp. Okay. This is the Addison. So in Addison, you see in artery, the serration, this type of things, the serrations, no, what till the end. But in this one is only in the distal part only. Okay, so cocker you should know. The cocker have also the pointed tooth are there in cocker. So mosquitoes are curved mosquitoes are also there and straight mosquitoes are also there. So if you not see, it is a kind of difficult to identify from this artery also and mosquito also. But mosquito also have a little bit distal part only. But arteries have till the last arteries will have their serrations. Okay, so this is your bone hook. So I told you before, like when I was showing that rib retractor, no, in rib retractor that it was not a pointed end, but this is the pointed end. So this one is used in orthopedics. Okay, we use it when we are doing a bipolar hemiarthroplasty and when we reduce it. So after doing it, we reduce it and we want to dislocate the head again, no, then we use this one in the femur and then you pull it, so it will dislocate the head. Okay, so this is a skin. No, but yeah, this is a skin retractor. Okay, so there are two types. One is having two ends, and another one is single one also hook is there. So this is a skin hook for skin retracting skins. Okay, this is Army Navy. Okay, so Army Navy you should know, this is a very common instrument. Okay, this one also is just a small general retractor only. Okay, so I'll show you, just remember this is a backman, but this is not the one we use it. Just see in this one there is a hinge here. Okay. Okay, and then this is a Gelpi. So Gelpi we use it while retracting when you don't have assistance, no. So to retract the wound, we use Gelpi. So you remember in Gelpi there is one pointed end. Yeah, this is a Ini. It's just a retractors. Okay. So this is a home end retractor. Okay, so we use it for when we are staying near the bone, no, at that part we use this one. We put this part at the bone and then you retract the soft tissues. This Kelly and all, they use it in this is a Langenbeck. No, this is a very common Langenbeck, we use it. Just remember, is in an L shape, no? Langenbeck. Okay, this one, a mastoid retractor. We sometimes use this one for retracting wound also. So remember, JLP, and remember this one, mastoid retractor. This ribbon is important, okay, and this one, sand retractor. One side is curved and one side there is a cat. So cat's-paw hand, no, the cat's-paw retractor. They also call it cat's-paw retractor. This one also, weight liner, this is also important. So remember 3 retractors, JLP, mastoid, and this one. So I think this one might come in exam, okay? So just remember this one. So in this one only the needle retractor, needle holder only, you guys have to know. Needle holder is easy. This part is, the distal part is very small. So you guys will know how to identify. Okay, so this is a suction tip, okay. The small suction tip. They use it in neurosurgery also. Doing spine surgery also we use it. Yeah, okay, I think that's it. So, any questions? Yeah, this one, the drills. So, these are the power drills. This is a burr when we are doing a tumor, no, when we are doing a osteomyelitis case also. When you want to burr the, like, clean the medulla, we use a burr. Okay, so remember, just see here the burr, how it looks like. Then one more thing they will ask you is that the oscillating saw. So this is a oscillating saw to cut the bone. Okay, and this is a micro saw. You can cut, like when there are small bones to be cut, then you use micro saw, or for big bones you can use a oscillating saw. Okay, that's it. Any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, so I'll share you, like if you guys want it, I'll share you the slides with you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll send the one guy, the one who messaged me, I think I'll send him. You are the one, no? Ashwardhan, you message me, no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'll send you, okay? Okay?
Yes, sir.
Happy Sunday, guys. Enjoy and good luck for tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.